Hello everyone. Good evening to today's class. Okay, welcome. So we are going into the fifth part of this lecture series. Okay. Hello Charu. Hello Tabish. Welcome. Okay. So today is the last part of the Standard 7 textbook. Our past 2. Okay, 5 out of 5. Last 3 chapters will be completed today. Okay, the chapters are a bit long, and I don't plan to keep you here more than 2 hours, so I will go a bit fast. If you feel saturated at some point, you can always rewatch this. Okay, the video will be available in YouTube for a very long time. You can watch it, rewatch it from certain point if you wish. Okay, anyway, last 3 chapters of Standard 7 NCERT will be covered today in this session. Okay, now before moving on to our class, I would like to make an announcement. Okay, that is from 17th onwards, okay, this month, October 17th onwards, in the Unacademy platform, a new series called Mission UPSC 2021 is going to be started. Okay, Mission UPSC 2021, which is a series for complete coverage of syllabus. Okay, the entire syllabus for UPSC CSE examination will be covered, and the persons who will be teaching this are people like Mrinal sir and Snehil sir and top educators in India. Okay, so that class will start from coming 19th. Okay, coming 19th that class will start. It is for the subscribed students. So if you wish to subscribe for this class, then take an Unacademy subscription. It is a complete coverage of syllabus for the next year's exam. Okay, so yeah, welcome to today's class. Before we start with the topics, let me just introduce to you Unacademy. And Unacademy is India's largest learning platform, and it offers you all these cool things: daily live classes where you can interact with the educator, clear your doubts, take part in polls and all. Then live test series and quizzes are also available to gain more confidence. Okay, then structured courses are available, just the one I said before. The Mission UPSC 2021 is an example of a structured course. Okay, because the entire syllabus for UPSC will be covered. I will come back to answering your queries after the introduction. Okay, I will look into the chat after this one. And don't worry, I will clear all your doubts. Then unlimited access to all Unacademy materials relevant to your exam based on your subscription. Okay, so in order to get all these, first thing is first, you have to download the Unacademy learning app. This can be done freely from Google Play and App Store. Okay, so yeah, I am Madhav Sankar R Warrier, and this is my Telegram channel. Okay, t.me/msrw1. You can avail all my notes, class links, schedules, etc. in this Telegram channel, t.me/msrw1. Okay, then this is my Unacademy channel. I take classes both in YouTube as well as Unacademy platform. So right now a course is going on in Unacademy platform that deals with world history. Yesterday it was started. First topic is completed, American Revolution. Today I am taking another class, the second of that series, regarding American Civil War. Okay, that will happen tonight at 8 p.m. in this link. Alright, so please do join me there also. So Unacademy brings you all these great educators from all over the country, and they will be taking classes for you. Okay, so in order to get a subscription, download the app and hit the get subscription button, and you will be getting all these things: polity, history, current affairs, economy. Optional courses are also available. Okay, practice and strategy sessions, mains answer writing courses. Okay, so all this will be available to you at very reasonable rates. Now another announcement: from October 20th onwards, these rates are going to be increased. Okay, instead of 8,000 it will become 9,000, and instead of 44,000 it will become 49,500. Okay, so the rates are going to be increased from October 20th onwards, so make sure to get a subscription before that, so that you can get the price subscription in the shown rates. Also, you can use my code MSRW1 to get a 10% reduction in these prices. So if you get a subscription right now, you do not have to pay even 44,000 rupees. You have to pay only 39,600 for 1 year. Okay, after using my code, only 39,600 for a whole year. but after October 20th, this price will increase. Okay, so this is known as the basic plus subscription. Whatever I have so far said will be given to you in this subscription. Okay, the 2-year rates are also shown here. But there is something else known as the Unacademy Iconic. This is specifically tailor-made for UPSC students only, not available for other exams. In this one, a personal coach will be given to each and every learner. Okay, and that person will be there as a mentor or a guide for you throughout the exam preparation time. Okay, so along with that, you will be doing mains answer writing practice every day. You will be given a study planner, personalized feedback. So all these things will be available to you over and above the plus package if you go for the Iconic subscription. Okay, so 1-year rate again here is 64,000 and you can get 10% off upon using my code MSRW1. 2-year rates are also shown here. These rates will also increase from October 20th. Okay, so if you go for a 1-year subscription or a 2-year subscription, you can avail no cost EMI. Okay, both for Plus as well as Iconic, EMI facility is available if you go for a 1-year or 2-year subscription. Clear? This much is about Unacademy subscriptions. Okay, so you can visit my URL as shown here to join tonight's 8 p.m. class on American Civil War. American Civil War. Okay, that will be aired at 8 p.m. today. So please do join there also. So that is it. Let me see any queries. Okay, hello Sunil, hello Seema. Yeah, that is it. So basically, the Unacademy Mission UPSC 2021, the classes will the whole syllabus classes will be starting from October 19th, and renowned educators like Mrinal sir and Snehil sir will be taking classes there. So please do join if you are preparing for next year's exam. Okay. Anyway, let's begin our classes for the day. And today we are looking into the final part 5 out of 5 of NCERT Class 7 series. Okay, from coming Monday onwards, we will be starting with the next book, that is Class 8. Also remember, every Tuesday we will start our class with a quiz. Okay, coming Tuesday also, the class will be starting with a quiz. I will announce the portions and all in the Telegram channel. So please follow me there. Okay. So let's start the final session from this textbook. Chapter 8, Devotional Paths to the Divine. Okay. So yes, the idea of a supreme God. Okay. So now we are going to see about some of the cults like the Bhakti, Sufi, Jagannatha cult, Veera Shaivas, etc. in the medieval times. Okay, so different groups of people had different gods of their own. Okay, just like different religions have different gods. Different regions also had different kinds of gods. Okay, South Indians had one prominent god, North India some other god, and so on. Okay, so the idea that all living things pass through a number of birth and death cycles, etc. These kinds of philosophies started to become very, very prevalent. Okay, life after death, transmigration of soul, these kind of philosophies gained ground. Okay, similarly, idea that all human beings are not equal even at the birth gained more prominence. Okay, which means what? Based on birth itself, there will be some kind of classification or stratification. For example, the Varna system. Okay, anybody who is born as a Shudra will be a Shudra. Anybody who is born as a Brahmana will be Brahmana. So these kind of rigidity started to show up in the medieval times. Okay, although Buddhists and Jainists were against this. And others felt attracted to the idea of supreme God who could deliver humans from such bondage, approached with devotion. So we will talk about this later. I am not explaining it here because we have a section regarding this point. Okay, so the ideas of Bhakti, ideas of Sufi, and such other cults also started to become more and more prominent. Okay, then Puranas and other mythological textbooks all started to gain ground. Okay, and although initially the Puranas also supported this classification based on birth. Later on, Puranas also said that devotees can receive this salvation regardless of the kind of birth they have. Okay, so whatever religion they were born in, it doesn't matter. Anyone can achieve salvation if they receive grace from God. Okay, so the medieval society and the medieval religious policies actually have a significant change compared to its ancient counterpart. Okay, so we are going to see what are the different kinds of cults that arose in the medieval India. Okay, so the most important one, especially in the South Indian region, are known as Nayanars and Alvars. Already you know about Nayanars and Alvars. Their counterparts are the Shaivite and Vaishnavites in the northern India. Okay, so Shaivites and Vaishnavites in the northern India are similar to the Nayanars and Alvars in South India. Okay, so around 7th to 9th centuries, we saw some emergence of specific religious movements in the South Indian region. Okay, and these were known as Nayanars and Alvars. Nayanars are those people who worshipped Lord Shiva. Okay, Shaivite people are known as Nayanars. And Alvars are those people who worshipped Vishnu. Okay, so this is the basic difference between Nayanars and Alvars. One worshipped Shiva and other worshipped Vishnu. Okay, and many of them, many of these Nayanars and Alvars were actually from lower class of people, the so-called untouchables like Pulayars and Panars, etc. They accepted all classes of the society into their sect, whether Brahmanas or Shudras, Kshatriyas, this doesn't matter. All were accepted equally. Okay, but the Buddhists and Jainists were actually, these Alvars and Nayanars were actually critical about Buddhism and Jainism. Okay, because the kind of philosophy preached by these two sects were entirely different. Shaivas and Vaishnavites, what did they do? They preached the devotion to God. They came up with the concept of a personal God. Okay, rather than a Brahmanical God or rather than some Haifanda philosophy, they came with a personal God, which means the God is considered as a beloved of the devotee. Okay, this is the time when other saints like Kabir, Tulasidas, Ramanuja, etc. came into fore in North India. Okay, so the idea of bhakti or idea of a personal God started to arise at this time. Okay, so the ideals of love and heroism were also featured here, especially in the Sangam literature. Okay, Sangam literature means the literature of the old Tamilian era. Okay, the Sangam age, which is around before the 6th century AD. At that time, many literatures were composed by poets like Ilango Vadigal, Thiruvalur, etc. And in this Sangam literature also, we come across references regarding these kinds of religious cults. Okay, and Chola and Pandya kings also supported these kinds of saint poets. Okay, they actually built temples and shrines supporting this concept. Okay, so this is how a separate kind of Hinduism started developing. Okay, not the traditional Hinduism on the Brahmanical lines, but a more liberal and more accommodative kind of religious sects and cults started emerging. Okay, don't worry, we are not going in depth regarding Nayanars and Alvars here. We have to study about them in a higher standard textbook. So in-depth analysis will be given there. Okay, for now just understand how these cults started emerging in the South Indian subcontinent. Okay, so basically there were 63 Nayanars. Okay, Nayanars means what? Devotees of Shiva. So 63 of them were there, and they belong to different classes, especially the ones known as untouchables. Okay, the workers, peasants, hunters, soldiers. So people from all such classes were accepted into the Nayanar cult. Okay, example: Appar, Sambandar, Sundarar, Manikyavasagar. Okay, these are some of the examples of Nayanar saint, and their compilations are known as Tevaram and Tirugavacham. Okay, Tiruvachakam. Sorry, here I missed the H. Tiruvachakam. Okay, so Tevaram and Tiruvachakam are the two compilations of Nayanas. These are important for your prelims. Okay, so these are the important saints of Nayanas, and these are the important textbooks or compilations of Nayanas. Similarly, there were 12 Alvars, including Periyalvar, his daughter Andal, Tondara Dippodi, Nammalvar, etc. etc. Okay, so one important point to note here is Andal, who is a female, okay, is in the Alvar sect. Okay, so I have seen mock questions for UPSC saying that Andal, we can see women also accepted into the Bhakti cult. Example, Andal in the Nayanar group. That kind of statements I have seen in various mock texts. But understand that Andal is from Alvar group. She was a devotee of Vishnu. Okay, and the compilation of the Alvars is known as Divya Prabandham. Just like Tevaram and Tiruvachakam for the Nayanars, Divya Prabandham is the composition for Alvars. Okay, so this is a prelims slide. Okay, every point in this slide is important for your prelims. Okay. Good evening, Ramkumar. Good evening, Saubhagya. Yes, Divya, today I am going to complete this textbook. Okay, there are 3 chapters to be completed, so I will be going a bit fast. If at any point of time any of you feel saturated or overwhelmed, you can take a break, go back and watch the remaining video later on. That is also possible. Okay, it won't be live for you, but even then, as I'm taking 3 chapters in 2 hours, it will be useful for you, and I will be covering all the points. I won't be missing anything. So in case you feel saturated, you can come back and watch later always. Okay, so now let's look at 2 of the most prominent saints in South India at that time. One is Shankaracharya, also known as Shankara. Okay, so who is this Shankaracharya? Whenever we talk about Shankaracharya, the first thing that comes to our mind is the concept of Advaita. Correct, the Advaita philosophy. Actually, Shankaracharya was born in Kerala, okay, my native state. He was born in a place called Kaladi in Kerala in 8th century AD. Okay, and he proposed this concept of Advaita. Advaita means the doctrine of oneness, which means the individual soul and the supreme God are the same, one and the same. Okay, so the Jivatma and Paramatma. Jivatma is the soul within us, and Paramatma is the universal soul, which is the God. Okay, so Jivatma and Paramatma are one and the same. That is what Shankaracharya said in his concept of Advaita. Okay, and he taught that Brahman, the only ultimate reality, was formless and without any attributes. So, Nirguna. Okay, so the ultimate reality or the ultimate oneness or the Brahman is actually having no attributes, or he is of Nirguna form. Okay, for example, Guru Nanak also proposed the same thing. The God that we, if we say Vishnu, then we have a form for Vishnu. One hand it is lotus, then you have Gada in other hand, then the Sudarshana Chakra in the third hand, and so on and so on. Okay, this is actually the form of the God, the characters of the God. But according to Shankaracharya, God is formless, okay, and has no attributes. Okay, and he considered that the world around us is a illusion or Maya. Okay, so everything that is around us is Maya, which means what? He is against materialism. Okay, and he preached the renunciation of the world and adoption of the path of knowledge to attain salvation. Okay, so he preached renunciation of the world, which means asceticism. Okay, and he preached asceticism for attaining salvation and acquiring true knowledge to attain salvation. Okay, so this is a very basic points about, these are the very basic points about Shankaracharya. So remember, he was born in Kerala, he preached Advaita, he said that God is of Nirguna form, and he preached asceticism as a path to obtain salvation. Okay, now we are moving to another saint known as Ramanuja. I will look into your questions after every slide. Okay. So Ramanuja. So Ramanuja, another person from South India, and he was born in Tamil Nadu, neighboring state of Kerala. Okay, in the 11th century. This is also important. We often miss these kinds of points. When was he born? He lived in 11th century. Shankaracharya, 8th century. And in UPSC, the question will come, Shankaracharya and Ramanuja were contemporaries. And we will have no idea how to tackle that. Okay, so this is also very important. You have to be careful about the time when they lived. The exact year is not important, but you should be able to arrange them in a proper chronological order. Okay, so Ramanuja came after Shankaracharya. Okay, and Ramanuja was actually deeply influenced by Alvars. He was an Alvar, which means he was a Vaishnavite or a Bhakta of Vishnu. Okay, so he also proposed a philosophy, and this school of thought is known as Vishishta Advaita or qualified monism or qualified oneness. Okay, and in qualified monism, he says that although we can say there are two souls, Shankaracharya said both Jivatma and Paramatma are the same thing. Correct. Vishishta Advaita, Ramanuja says that although they are one and the same things, but both are not the same. Okay, it is actually a contradiction. He is saying that Jivatma in the end is a part of Paramatma only, but Jivatma is still different from Paramatma. That is qualified monism. Monism means individuality. Both are the same, but based on some conditions. That is some restrictions or limitations are given. Okay, so God, the Jivatma and Paramatma in the end are a unity, but at the same time Jivatma is different from Paramatma. So that is what is said by Ramanuja in his concept of qualified monism or Vishishtadvaita. Okay, so the soul, even when united with the Supreme God, remain distinct. Okay, even when united, it is actually distinct. Ramanuja's doctrine greatly inspired the new strand of Bhakti which developed in the North Indian region subsequently. So the Vaishnava saints of North India, etc., more or less took inspiration from Ramanuja. Okay, we will study about them later in the slides itself. Okay, so these are the two important saints of South India at that time. Okay, now we are moving on to another important sage named Basavanna, and his concept is known as Veera Shaivism. Okay, Veera Shaivism of Basavanna. Also, sometimes you will come across another name which is Lingayats. This name is also seen in some textbooks. Okay, so Basavanna and his companions like Allama Prabhu and Akka Mahadevi. Okay, Allama Prabhu and Akka Mahadevi together founded this sect or cult known as Veera Shaivism. So just as the word says, Veera and Shaivism. So they were also worshippers of Lord Shiva. Okay, and this was founded in the state of Karnataka in the mid-12th century AD. Okay, another South Indian cult started in the state of Karnataka in the mid-12th century AD. Okay, and they argued that all human beings are equal. Okay, they were against this Brahmanical ideas of caste differences and patriarchy, etc., etc. They said that it doesn't matter what caste a person is born, doesn't matter if he is a man or a woman, all people are one and the same in front of the God. Okay, and they were also against all forms of sacrifices, idol worship, and other rituals. Okay, so they said they also preached into devotion and bhakti rather than surrendering to the Brahmanical methods of sacrifices, rituals, idol worship, etc., etc. Okay, so Basavanna's Veera Shaivism, understand the important points, happened in Karnataka. They were strongly against the inequalities in society, and they accepted men, women, and all other classes of people as such. Also, they were against idol worship and rituals and sacrifices. Okay, now let's go to another state, Maharashtra. So we started in Kerala, came to Tamil Nadu, then we saw Karnataka, now moving to Maharashtra. Okay, so in Maharashtra, the important sages at this time were Jnaneshwar, Namadeva, Eknath, and Tukaram, as well as a woman called Sakhubai. Okay, so she and the family of Chokkamela, who belonged to the untouchable Mahar caste. So these were the prominent saints in Maharashtra, and unlike Kerala and Tamil Nadu, here we have more number of saints. So just try to by heart these names. Okay, Jnaneshwar, Namadeva, Eknath, Tukaram, Sakhubai, and the family of Chokkamela. Okay, so these were the prominent saints in Maharashtra region. So this regional tradition of Bhakti focused on Vittala. If you remember, there is a Vittala temple also in the Hampi region. We talked about that yesterday. So Vittala is actually a form of Vishnu. Okay, and there is a temple in Pandharpur, a Vittala temple in Pandharpur. And Vittala was the form of God as far as Maharashtra sages were concerned. Okay, for example, in South India, we already talked about Shiva, Vishnu, etc. Similarly, here a form of Vishnu known as Vittala is being worshipped. Here also, the concept of personal God residing in the heart of all people were focused upon. So rather than going into temple and conducting sacrifices and prayers, focus on the God who is within you. Okay, God is actually just like a lover to you. Okay, that kind of relationship between God and man was propounded as a part of Bhakti movement. We will see more about Mirabai and all in the North Indian region. At that time, we will see that the concept of personal God became even more intense. Okay, so the devotion around Lord Vittala gave rise to the Varkari sect, which lay emphasis on the annual pilgrimage to Pandharpur. So this concept or this devotion to Lord Vittala gave rise to a new sect, and this sect is known as the Varkari sect. Okay, so the Varkari sect are from the state of Maharashtra. A prelims question. Don't forget. Okay, so these people also rejected all forms of ritualism. They also displayed no kind of discrimination against anybody based on birth. Okay, men, women, all classes in the society, everybody were accommodated into this sect. Okay, the important thing to note here is, although these were offshoots of Hinduism itself, these cults were actually started by lower class people. Most of it, okay, at least most of them were started by lower class people, and they actually accepted everyone because they know what it is to suffer discrimination. So they were actually protesting against the Brahmanical dominance within the Hinduism itself. Okay, so that is common to all these different sects. So they also rejected the idea of renunciation and preferred to live with their families. This is very important. Okay, Shankaracharya, earlier I told you, Shankaracharya said that you have to become an ascetic and renounce the world because world is full of Maya. Okay, and in order to attain salvation, you have to renounce the world, then try to achieve true knowledge. But here in Maharashtra, things were different. Here they renounced the idea of asceticism, and they actually said that the people can live with their families itself. It is not necessary to renunciate the materialistic world to achieve salvation. What is important is to be with your family and earn a livelihood on your own and serve fellow human beings. Okay, we have heard about this very famous saying, Manava Seva, Madhava Seva. You remember, na? This very famous saying is there, Manava Seva, Madhava Seva, which means helping a person who is in need is equivalent to serving God. Okay, so the same concept is seen here as well in the saints of Maharashtra. Okay, so Bhakti lay in sharing others' pain or helping other person to get out from his pain. Okay, so a famous example, a quote from Narsi Mehta, who was a sage from the state of Gujarat. Okay, they are Vaishnavas who understand the pain of others. I am putting these kinds of quotes also in this slide because UPSC has started asking quotes by various people. This year we saw a question from one of Ashoka's edicts. Okay, so we can expect such quotes, and you will be asked to identify the person who said that or something like that. Okay, so Narsi Mehta, sage from state of Gujarat, confers with this idea that they are Vaishnavas who understand the pain of others. Okay, I hope you understood what the condition in Maharashtra were in this period compared to Kerala, Tamil Nadu and Karnataka. Hello Purnesh, good evening. Yes, Seema, Linga, it's very good. Okay. So now we are going to look into another sect, again in South India, known as Nathpanthis, Siddhas and Yogis. Okay, these were another group of people who had some ideological differences. So they also criticized the ritual and other aspects of conventional religion and social order using simple logical arguments. Again, I have already said this, but again, I have to repeat it because most of these sects that emerged in South India at this time were actually against the Brahmanical dominance. They were against the conventional religious beliefs. Okay, they were more accommodating. They believed in the concept of a personal god. Okay, these were common to all these different cults. Alright, but contrary to the sages of Maharashtra, the people in Nathpanthis, Siddhas and Yogis, they advocated the renunciation of world. Remember this figure, okay? Just remember this figure so you will understand. They are, most of them are wearing no clothes, which means they have renounced this world. All the materialistic things has been sacrificed. Okay, so they said that the path to achieve salvation lay in meditation of the formless ultimate reality. Okay, in order to achieve salvation, you have to meditate to the formless or the nirguna form of God. Just like what Shankaracharya told. Shankaracharya also said asceticism has to be followed and the God is formless. Nathpanthis, Siddhas and Yogis also shared the same idea. Okay, so they also were against the materialism of the world. They also advocated on intense training of mind and body through meditation and breathing exercises. You know about this, the various kinds of yoga, and one of them is the pranayama. Pranayama, which means what? Breathing exercises. Yama, niyama and all these things, Pranayama, that is the breathing exercise. So, Nathpanthis, Siddhas and Yogis said that this breathing exercise and meditation, etc. will help you to gain more discipline and control your body, which will help you to attain the path of salvation. Okay, and this group were especially popular among the lower sections of society. Okay, Nathpanthis, Siddhas and Yogis were especially popular among the lower sections of the society. Clear? Again, they were popular there because they were opposing the higher sections, the Brahmanical systems. Okay, so this is another group that is commonly found in South India. Now, so far we have talked about all the Hindu groups. Okay, whatever we have talked about, Shankaracharya, Ramanuja, Lingayats, all these were the Hindu offshoots. Now we are going to look at some of the Islamic offshoots that gained prominence around this time. And the best example is Sufism. Just like the Bhakti movement of Hindus, we have Sufi movement in Islam. Okay, so Islam also had many rigid practices and many segregations that actually made many people reject some of its ideals. So Sufism came in with some kind of liberal alternatives. Okay, so basically Sufis were Muslim mystics who rejected the outward religiosity and emphasized on love and devotion to God. Just like the Bhakti movement, they are emphasizing on personal God, love and devotion to God, rather than sacrifices, rituals, etc. etc. Okay, so they rejected elaborate rituals and codes of behavior demanded by Muslim religious scholars. Okay, just like Hindus, Muslims also have various kinds of religious practices and all, rigid practices. So Sufis rejected all of them. Okay, so this Sufism did not originate in India. It actually came to India from the Middle Eastern region. So the greatest Sufis of this Central Asian region were Ghazali, Rumi and Sadi. Okay, Ghazali, Rumi and Sadi. So just like these Nadapandis, Siddhas, Yogis, etc., Sufis also believed that the heart can be trained to look into the world in a different way. Okay, Nadapandis, Yogis, Siddhas, what did they say? They said that meditation and breathing exercise can be used to control your mind and discipline your body. So these Sufi saints also said that human body can be trained in a way to change the perspective of a human to the world. Okay, and the method used for training, such training, were known as Zikr. Z-I-K-R. Okay, if this is not that much visible, don't worry, I will upload the PDF. You can read, maximize it and read it. Okay, so Zikr, which means chanting the name or Nama Japa in the counterpart of Hinduism. Okay, so Zikr. Then contemplation, contemplating the God through meditation. Okay, then Sama. Sama means singing. Then Rags. Rag means dance. Okay, then discussion of parables, breath control, etc., etc., under the supervision of a master who is known as Pir. Okay, so just like the Nadpanthis said about controlling the body through various methods, Sufism also says about some such methods, that is Zikr, which is Namajapa, then contemplation of God with the help of meditation, then singing, dancing, discussing of parables. All these things will help in achieving some sort of discipline that will change the mindset to the world. Okay, but all these things has to be done by the guidance of a master, and that master or guru is known as Pir. Okay, and thus emerged the silsilas. Okay, so there were multiple gurus. Okay, so Chistis were there, Sarhindis were there, Naqshbandi were there. So different gurus, different schools within Sufism. Okay, as the number of gurus increased, the number of subgroups within the Sufism also increased. And the best example is the Chisti Silsila. Okay, when the Mughals came to India, or even before that, when the Delhi Sultanates came to India, these Sufi centers started developing all over the country. And the most celebrated Sufi Silsila that came into being is the Chisti Silsila, which is headed by Khwaja Muinuddin Chisti of Ajmer. Khwaja Muinuddin Chisti, one of the very famous Sufi saints of ancient India. Okay, he was the propounder of Chisti Silsila. Other leaders in this Silsila were also very famous. For example, Qutbuddin Bakhtiyar Kaki of Delhi, Baba Farid of Punjab, Khwaja Nizamuddin Auliya of Delhi. Remember that Jodha Akbar film? In that, there is a very famous song in that where this Nizamuddin Auliya is mentioned multiple times. Okay, then Bandanavas Gisudaras of Gulbarga. So these are very famous Sufi saints. All of them belong to the Chisti Silsila. Okay, here also there is a prelims question. You have to identify the name of the person and the area of their operation. Okay, Muinuddin Chisti in Ajmer, Bakhtiyar Kaki in Delhi, Baba Farid, Punjab, Khwaja Nizamuddin Auliya, again Delhi, and Bandanavas Gisudaras in Gulbarga. Clear? The Sufi masters held their assemblies in a place called Khankas. Another term. Okay, Khankas means what? Hospices, means the area where they conducted their assemblies or their discussions. Okay, those places were known as Khankas or hospices. Okay, in Kashmir also a separate branch of this Sufism started flourishing, and that is known as the Rishi order. Okay, Rishi order of Sufism flourished in Kashmir, and this was established by Sheikh Nuruddin Wali, known as Nund Rishi. Okay, Sheikh Nuruddin Wali, also known as Nund Rishi, is the person who established the Rishi order of Sufism in Kashmir. Okay, most of them are prelims oriented, so make sure to remember all these things. Okay, now you might be confused, but once you read this multiple times, it will get easier. Okay, I will upload the PDF, don't worry. But I hope so far you are able to follow the general pattern of what is happening in medieval India. Okay, even if you forgot the names and all, doesn't matter. I hope you understand how the religion and society of medieval India are emerging at this time. Okay. Saubhagya is asking why Sufis rejected religion. Sufis reject. Why do they reject religion? Because all the standard religions, say Islam or Hinduism or Christianity, whatever it is, it starts with very liberal concepts. Say, consider Hinduism itself. Hinduism started with very liberal concepts. At ancient times, it was possible for a person from Shudra clan to change to Vaishya clan, or from Vaishya Varna to Kshatriya Varna. That was possible because the rigidity was not there. Based on occupation, you can change the Varnas also. But later on, this Varna system became based on birth rather than occupation. Okay, if you are born in a Shudra family, you will be Shudra throughout your life. So that kind of rigidity came into Hinduism. Similarly, same things happened in Christianity, Islam, etc., in their own way. So these Bhakti and Sufi movements were actually against all these things. They said that it doesn't matter what kind of birth a person has. Maybe that person is born in a so-called low-class caste, or maybe from a high-class family, doesn't matter. Irrespective of the person's birth, anyone can achieve salvation, and everybody has the right to pray to God. Okay, so that was the kind of idea that drove Bhaktism and Sufism. Okay, that is the reason why these gained popularity also, because Brahmanism, Islam, etc. were focused on the upper classes, and the lower classes of society were miserable. Doesn't matter Hindu or Muslim or Christian, doesn't matter. Lower sections of the society were always in a miserable condition. Okay, so these Sufism, Bhakti movement, Lingayats, etc. came to, they were more appealing to the lower sections of the society because they were accommodative of them. They also believed that now we can also attain salvation. Earlier Brahmanas said, Shudras, you people cannot achieve salvation. But now people in Sufism and Bhaktism are saying you can also achieve salvation. So that kind of triggers attraction towards that sect. Correct. So that is why these movements became very, very popular. So now let's see some of the developments in North India. So far what I have talked about is regarding the South Indian region. Now let's look at the North Indian region. Okay, in North India also same things happened. Different classes of people, especially those who are belonging to the lower strata of the society, like the craft persons, peasants, traders, laborers. These kinds of people were more impressed by the new developments in Bhakti movement and Sufi movement. Some people like Kabir, Baba Guru Nanak, etc. rejected the orthodox religions because of the same reasons. Okay, because of the reasons I have so far mentioned, they also rejected the rigid traditional systems. Some other saints like Tulasidas and Surdas accepted the existing beliefs and practices but wanted to make them accessible to all. This is very important for prelims. Saints like Kabir and Guru Nanak completely rejected the orthodox systems. Okay, but Tulasidas and Surdas, they actually accepted the existing beliefs, but they wanted this to be accessible for all people, irrespective of any kind of discrimination. Okay, so standing within the religion itself, they are saying they have to open up. Okay, do you understand the difference between these two? Very, very important. Okay, so moving on. A unique feature of most of these saints were that their works were composed in regional languages or vernacular languages and could be sung. Okay, consider some of the Brahmanical mantras or say Islamic verses. These cannot be sung, or these are composed in very specific languages. Most of the Hindu mantras are in the Sanskrit language. We chant a mantra, but most often we do not know what the meaning of that mantra is or what exactly are we chanting. Because we do not know Sanskrit. Simple answer. Okay, in Islam also, those people who do not know the corresponding language cannot understand or cannot really relate to whatever they are saying. So Sufism and Sufi saints and Bhakti saints organized their discussions in vernacular languages, in local languages. This also appealed a lot to the people. Okay, and mostly poorest, most deprived communities and women transmitted these songs, often adding their own experiences. So singing or gathering together, that kind of that method actually appeals more. Correct, na? If a movie comes out, the movie song is very easily, made into a hit. Why? Because the tune of that song will always be in our mind. Doesn't matter, the lyrics we might forget, but the tune will always stay. So the use of music was one of the ways by which Bhakti and Sufi saints appealed to the masses. Okay, using music and vernacular language or the local language. Okay, some of the examples are Tulsidas. Tulsidas was a devotee of Lord Rama. Okay, and he wrote this very famous textbook, Ramacharita in the language Awadhi. Awadhi is a local language in Uttar Pradesh. Okay, that existed in the medieval times in Uttar Pradesh, Awadhi language. And Tulsidas wrote Ramacharita in Awadhi language, not Hindi, don't forget. Then Surdas, another example. He was an ardent devotee of Krishna. And his works are Sursagara, Surasaravali and Sahitya Lahari. Okay, Sursagara, Surasaravali and Sahitya Lahari are the compositions of Surdas. Another important personality is Shankaradeva. Shankaradeva lived in the Assam region, okay? Assam region, and he was also a Vaishnavite, immense devotee of Lord Vishnu. And his composition is known as Kirtana Kosha. These are all one word things that you have to study. No explanation is needed. Just understand the name of the person, his area of operation or the god with whom he was associated with, and also his composition. Okay. Now, regarding Shankaradeva, you have to understand a bit more because I have seen lots and lots of questions on Shankaradeva in almost all the mock tests I have done. Okay. So, Shankaradeva also started this practice of setting up Namagars. Namgar means prayer hall. Okay, so the practice of setting up Namgar was started by Shankaradeva. Ekasarana Namadharma or the supreme surrender to one. This is the philosophy propounded by Shankaradeva. Okay, Ekasarana Namadharma, which means supreme surrender to God. This is the philosophy propounded by Shankaradeva. Okay, Shankaradeva's teachings were basically based on Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavata Purana. That is easy to remember. Shankaradeva was a Vaishnavite. Okay, so wherever Vishnu is there or Krishna is there, he can associate it with himself. Okay, so Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavata Purana were the chief areas of focus. And he encouraged the establishment of satras and monasteries for transmission of this knowledge. Okay, that is all about Shankaradeva. These are all one word points. Just try to remember all this. Okay. Then another important person is Dadu Dayal. I am not going to explain it about him here because Dadu Dayal was UPSC's favorite person around 2013, 14, 15, that year. Okay, in the earlier part of this decade, most of the UPSC questions from medieval period dealt with Dadu Dayal. So we will be looking into this particular saint in a later textbook. So here nothing is there. Just understand that Dadu Dayal was also one of the prominent Sufi saints in, Bhakti saints in the North Indian region in medieval times. Okay. Then comes Meerabhai. Meerabhai, all of you know. She was a Rajput princess and she was married into the royal family of Mewar. She was actually a disciple of Ravidas. Okay, Ravidas, who was a Bhakti saint, was actually from an untouchable caste. But Meerabhai was a disciple of Ravidas. Although she was a Kshatriya princess, she accepted the studentship of Ravidas. Okay, and she was devoted to Krishna. This is a very famous personality, Meerabai, and you people know about her more than me, maybe. Okay, very famous, very common personality, and her area of influence was Rajasthan and Gujarat. Okay, which means the Rajput area. Okay, so Meerabhai's personal god was Krishna, not Vishnu or not Rama, it was Krishna. Another important personality, Chaitanya Mahadeva. Okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Chaitanya Deva, whatever. He was a Bhakti saint in Bengal and preached selfless devotion to Krishna and Radha. The Radha Krishna cult was actually started by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or Chaitanya Deva in Bengal. Okay, the region very important, Bengal. Jayadeva, last one, also from Bengal, composed the Gita Govinda in Sanskrit. Okay, Gita Govinda, also known as Ashtapadi, was composed by Jayadeva in Sanskrit. Okay, he was also a Bhakti saint. And Gita Govinda is, you know that, it's a very famous treatise that is used by most of the contemporary musicians, regarding the Kirtanas and all. Okay, so all these are important personalities related to Bhakti and Sufi movement in medieval India. You can study one by one. Make sure to remember the name, their area of operation, and the god with whom they are associated with. Okay, that is what is important. And as some of here, the time also. What was the time period of their life? For example, Mirabai, 16th century. Chaitanya Mahadeva, also 16th century. So that is also important. You will have to identify if they were contemporaries or not. Okay. So whatever is in your NCERT textbook, the contracted, concise version of it that is provided in the PPT itself. Okay. Hello, Muhammad. Now let's look at this map. This is very important map. Okay. Here you can see the remaining years. In here I have not added some of the years. For example, Surdas, Tulasidas, etc. I have not given the year. But all details are available here in this map with the area of operation. So just by heart this map. Okay, Shankaradeva, 15th to 16th century, Assam. Guru Nanak, same period, contemporary of Shankaradeva, but in the northwestern region. Okay, then Dadu, again, in the 16th, the next century only, not contemporaries, but next century. Mirabai, 16th century, Gujarat and Rajasthan. Narsi Mehta, Gujarat, 15th century. So you can study from this map regarding the place of their operation and the era in which they lived. Okay, now let's look at one of the most important Sufi saints at that time, Kabir. Okay, so Kabir lived in the 15th to 16th century CE. He was brought up in a family of Muslim julahars or weavers, okay, and settled in the city of Benares. Then he got his ideas from a vast collection of verses called as Sakhis. Okay, his ideas are written in the vast collection of verses known as Sakhis, very important, or Sakhis and Pads. Okay, these are composed by Kabir, Sakhis and Pads. Later collected and preserved in the Guru Granth Sahib, Panchvani and Bijak. Okay, we can see all the verses of Kabir in these three textbooks. Guru Granth Sahib. Guru Granth Sahib is a holy textbook of 6. Then Panchvani and Bijak. In all these books we can see verses of Kabir. Okay, Kabir's teachings were based on complete rejection of the major religious traditions. Again, so far I have repeated this many times, so I am not going to go into that again. Okay, he also was against the traditional conventional methods of orthodox religions. He ridiculed all forms of external worship and the preeminence of the priestly classes and caste system. So he again against the caste system, against idolatry worship, against the orthodox systems like priests and middlemen to God. Okay, he was against all that, and he was also preaching personal God. Okay, so a form of spoken Hindi widely understood by ordinary people were predominantly used by Kabir. Okay, again, he also, instead of using Sanskrit and Haifanda languages, he communicated with people through the local language, which was a form of Hindi. But occasionally he used some cryptic language also. Okay, but predominantly he used the local prevailing vernacular language. He also believed in the formless supreme God, which means the Nirguna form. Okay, and preached that only path to salvation was through bhakti and devotion. Okay, he also was in favor of the Nirguna form, not the Saguna form. Opposite of Nirguna is Saguna. Okay, Saguna means with attributes. But so far, everybody who we have seen, Kabir, Shankaracharya, all these people were focusing on Nirguna form of God, the formless God. Okay, so this is basically what is important about Kabir. Next comes Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak, another very famous personality in the Sikh religion. He was born in the 15th century in a place called Talwandi. Talwandi is in current day Pakistan. Okay, Nankana Sahib, Pakistan. Remember this map in Pakistan. Guru Nanak, Talwandi region, Pakistan. So he was born in Talwandi. Then he established a center at Kartarpur, the Dera Baba Nanak on the river Ravi. Another important point, the name of the river. On the banks of river Ravi, he established the Dera Baba Nanak, okay, or the Kartarpur area. Right now, India and Pakistan has signed this Kartarpur corridor. Remember? So that pilgrimage corridor leads to this place. Okay, and his followers are ate together in the common kitchen called Langar. Okay, so Baba Guru Nanak was also against the dominant orthodox religions. He accepted everybody with irrespective of the birth into his sect, and everybody were given the food prepared from the same kitchen, and they all sat together and ate food. Okay, so the kitchen was called as Langar. Another term you have to know the meaning. Langar means kitchen. Okay, so the sacred space thus created by Baba Guru Nanak was known as Dharmsal, which is now known as Gurudwara. If you go to the Golden Temple at Amritsar, even now, you will get the same food, irrespective of anything else, any kind of class discrimination, or everybody will be given the same food, on a daily basis. Delivery of food, especially at the noon time and night time, is available at Gurudwaras. Okay, because of this concept only. Then Baba Guru Nanak's insistence that his followers must be householders and should adopt productive and useful occupations. They were also expected to contribute to the general funds of community of followers. Okay, so he said that it is not necessary to abandon family and all. He should be followers. Okay, he said to the followers that the follower should be a family person, a family man, and should lead a productive family life. There is no need to become an ascetic. Okay, then he also propounded monotheism, or worshipping one God, monotheism. His idea of liberation was not that of a state of inert bliss, but rather the pursuit of active life with a strong sense of social commitment. Again, same concept, Manava Seva, Madhava Seva. Rather than focusing on this supreme bliss or salvation and those kind of things, he said that the best method for liberation is not like meditation or anything, but to help others by social commitment. Okay, he himself used the terms Nam, Dan and Ishan. Okay, these three were the methods which he propounded in order to achieve this. Nam means what? Namajaba, recitation of the God's name, chanting of the God's name. Dan means what? Doing help to others, dana. Okay, which means what? Giving to the needy or helping other people who are in need. Then Isnan, which means purity of conduct or the moral values. Okay, so these three things, Nam, Dan and Ishan, were actually the method to achieve liberation. This was also propounded by Baba Guru Nanak. So what happened now? The next Guru, Guru Nanak's follower, was known as Lehna. Lehna, or also known as Guru Angad. Okay, so Guru Angad was the follower of Guru Nanak, the next Sikh Guru, second Sikh Guru. So Guru Angad introduced a new style of writing. It is known as Gurumukhi. Okay, Gurumukhi. The Gurumukhi script was introduced by Guru Angad, the second Sikh Guru. Okay, and using this script, he actually wrote down all the teachings and compositions of Guru Nanak. Okay, and later the fifth Sikh Guru, Guru Arjan. Okay, Guru Arjan, the fifth Sikh Guru. He actually took all the compositions of the first 5 Gurus and constituted a book. And this book is known as Adi Granth. Okay, so the fifth Sikh Guru, Guru Arjan, compiled a text based on the teachings of the first 5 Sikh Gurus, and this textbook is known as the Adi Granth. Okay, then later the 10th Sikh Guru, Okay, Guru Gobind Singh. Okay, the last Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, he actually collected all the teachings of all the Sikh Gurus and added his own teachings and put it together along with those teachings by people like Sheikh Farid, Kabir, Bhagat Namdev, etc. etc. Earlier I told you Kabir's verses are seen in Guru Granth Sahib, remember? So this person, Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Sikh Guru, collected all these things together and added it to Adi Granth. And this book, the final book, is known as Guru Granth Sahib. Okay, Adi Granth and Guru Granth Sahib are not one and the same. Adi Granth is the book compiled by 5th Sikh Guru, Guru Arjan. Okay, based on the teachings of the first 5 Sikh Gurus. Later on, the 10th Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, compiled all the teachings of all the 10 Sikh Gurus and added some other preachings also, like for example from Saint Kabir, Sheikh Farid, etc. and together contemplated a book. And this book is known as Guru Granth Sahib, and this is the holy textbook of Sikhs. Okay, so by the beginning of 17th century, this Amritsar area, that at that time it was known as Ramdaspur. Okay, Ramdaspur, currently known as Amritsar. This Amritsar actually began to be developed as a prominent, powerful region. Okay, and virtually this became an autonomous region to a huge extent. It was controlled by Sikhs only. Sikh community itself controlled Amritsar. So remember, the Mughals was still ruling India. Okay, the Mughals were still ruling, but it looked like Amritsar became a state within a state. Okay, the Sikhs had autonomous control over Amritsar. This actually irritated the Mughal emperor Jahangir. Okay, so Jahangir saw this as a threat to the Mughal kingdom, and he ordered the execution of Guru Arjan. Okay, Guru Arjan, the 5th Sikh Guru, was actually executed by the Mughals on the order of Jahangir. Okay, and this actually turned the Sikhs against the Mughals. Okay, the main religious leader, the Sikh Guru, has been killed by the Mughal emperor. So the Sikhs turned against Mughals. And the Sikhs organized a militant group known as Khalsa. Okay, the 10th Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, organized a militant class within the Sikhs, and this group is known as Khalsa. Okay, and the community of the Sikhs called the Khalsa Panth became a political entity. Later on we will see about Ranjit Singh and all, the various Sikh rulers like Maharaja Ranjit Singh and all. So even at those times, this Khalsa Panth were actually a prominent Sikh political group. Okay, so this is a basic idea about how Guru Nanak preached and his teachings, along with how the Sikh religion started to come up. Okay, so here we will end the first chapter. This is the lengthiest chapter, and we have come to the end of that chapter. Now we are moving on to the next one, the making of regional cultures. The different cultures in different regions we will see. Okay, so chapter 9, making of regional cultures. So starting with again South India, Kerala, the Cheras and the development of Malayalam. Okay, the Cheras actually ruled in the Kerala region, my home state, and that is around the time when the language of Malayalam developed. My native language, okay, my mother tongue, Malayalam. So the Chera kingdom of the Mahodayapuram, or the present day Kerala. The rulers introduced the Malayalam language and the script. Okay, and this is one of the earliest examples of use of regional languages in official records. Okay, if you remember, the Mughals used Persian to keep their records. Okay, Persian and Hindavi. Similarly, earlier dynasties used Sanskrit for record keeping. Okay, although some of the kings used Prakrit for their inscriptions and all, still record keeping was done in Sanskrit, High Funda language. A regional language was used for record keeping probably for the first time in the Chera kingdom, and that was in Malayalam. Okay, and Cheras also drew upon Sanskrit traditions. Some influence were there from Sanskrit traditions. Okay, for example, the temple theatre of Kerala Do anybody know the name of this? A very famous temple theatre dance of Kerala is actually a mix of Sanskrit and Malayalam. And it is featured among the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List. Can anyone tell me what it is? It is featured in UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List, the first one to be added to that list from India. A Sanskrit combo of Sanskrit Malayalam theatre drama known as, no idea? Kodiyatam. Okay, Kathakali emerged from Kodiyatam. So Kodiyatam was actually a Sanskrit theatre dance theatre that was predominant in Kerala. And Kodiyatam is the first dance form added into the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List from India. Okay, now a 14th century text, Leela Tilakam. Okay, this is an evidence of use of Sanskrit along with the regional language. Okay, this textbook, Leela Tilakam, was actually composed in a language known as Manipravalam. Manipravalam literally means diamonds and corals. Okay, so Manipravalam was the language used to compose the textbook of Leela Tilakam. And Manipravalam was actually a mix of two languages, Malayalam and Sanskrit. Okay, so the regional language started emerging, but at the same time, the Sanskrit language has had its influence. That is what this slide is saying. Clear? So that is all about the Cheras and development of Malayalam. Now we are going to see a bit towards the central Indian region, and that is regarding the Jagannatha cult. You have seen this image, na? The Lord Jagannatha along with his sister Subhadra and Balabhadra. Okay, so the Jagannatha cult also started emerging in the state of Orissa. The Puri Jagannatha temple, very world famous temple, and in the state of Orissa, the Jagannatha cult emerged. Okay, this also emerged based on some of the regional local cultures. Okay, even now we have a festival every 13 years where the deity or the statue of the deity in the temple is actually changed. Okay, the statue of the deity is actually in the Jagannatha temple is made by wood. Okay, special wood is used for making this deity's statue. But once in 13 years, this statue is replaced with a new statue. It is made of wood, so it won't last forever. Okay, so this statue of wood is actually made by local tribes. It is not made by Brahmanical orders or anything. It is actually made by local tribes. Okay, and so what does this mean? This means that some local cultures have started emerging in different regions. And one example we saw already in Kerala, and now we are seeing one in Odisha, the Jagannatha temple. Okay, so Jagannatha temple is identified with Lord Vishnu. Okay, Jagannatha is Lord Vishnu only. Okay, so in the 12th century AD, Anantavarman of Ganga dynasty created this temple for Purushottama Jagannatha in Puri. So this temple was actually built in 12th century AD by a Ganga dynasty king known as Anantavarman. In the same century, Angabhima, not same century, the next century, the 13th century, Anangabhima III dedicated his kingdom and proclaimed himself to be a deputy of the god. Okay, in Kerala also that feature is there. You might have heard of this Padmanabha Swami temple. Okay, it has been in the news recently. Okay, the Padmanabha Swami temple. So the Kerala kings who ruled the Travancore region also have the same thing. They actually submitted the kingdom to God Padmanabha. And from that time onwards, all the Travancore kings were known as Padmanabha Dasa, which means a servant of the god. Same thing happened in Orissa also. The king Anangabhima III dedicated his kingdom to Jagannatha. And from that time onwards, the Ganga dynasty kings were known as deputy of the god, the servant of the Lord. Okay, the Lord is the actual person who is ruling the kingdom. Clear? As the temple gained more and more prominence in pilgrimage, its authority in social, political matters also increased. This is a needless point to explain. Obviously, when the temple become more and more powerful, it will have more say in the society and eventually politics also. Okay, remember in the medieval society still Brahmanical order was in power. Don't forget that. So they will eventually have a higher say in social and religious matters. All those who conquered Odisha, such as Mughals, Marathas, English East India Company, all wanted to gain control over this temple. Why? Because of the same reason. The temple is extremely rich. Also, those who controlled the temple had a higher say in the social and religious matters. So anybody who conquered Odisha wanted to acquire the control of Jagannatha temple. Okay, we saw how the rulers used these temples in ancient times and medieval times in the last chapter. I hope you can remember that. Same reasons applicable here also. Okay. Hello Dinesh. Now we are going to the Western Indian region, the Rajputs and their tradition of heroism. Okay, I am not going to explain this slide one by one statements. I am going to generally say it. Okay, you can read the statements if you want. But in order to understand this slide, all you have to do is remember the movie Padmavat. Okay, Padmavat movie basically summarizes Rajput traditions and their heroism. Okay, so obviously Rajputs were actually a very proud kingdoms, and they were known for their valor, courage, bravery, etc., etc. And they had this thing, they will never back off from a battle. They will either win it or die in the battlefield. That was the kind of valor the Rajputs had. Rajput women also had the same. If they lost, then what would the women do? They will perform something called Johar. Remember Deepika Padukone walking into the fire in the end of Padmavat movie? Same thing, Johar, or kind of Sati. Okay, so Rajput women were also very impressive on their pride. Okay, they valued their pride more than anything. So they also committed this Johar whenever their kingdom lost. So this slide all in all says that Rajputs were actually a class of people who emerged around this time and they lived in the present day Rajasthan region, and they fought valiantly, courageously and chose to die rather than to lose. Okay, so that kind of pride and heroism is seen in different Rajput clans. Women also were not different. They also either won or committed Johar. That's it. Okay, this slide basically says that much. No need of further explanation. And you can see the important areas that we have talked about in this particular map. Okay, the Rajasthan region where the Mewar, Ajmer, all these Rajput leaders are there. Okay, then you can come across Odisha, Puri, Jagannatha temple. Okay, then we have Kerala here. The Padmanabha Swami temple is in Trivandrum, my home district. Okay, so all the important areas mentioned in this lesson can be seen in this map. You can refer it. Alright, now let's look at some of the art forms. Starting with Kathak. So Kathak means, essentially the term Kathak derived from the word Katha. What does Katha means? Katha is a Sanskrit word, okay. Katha is a word used in Sanskrit which means story. That's it. Story, simple meaning story. Okay, so the term Kathak evolved from the word Katha. Okay, so Kathaks were initially actually a class of storytellers in North Indian temples. Okay, they were actually basically storytellers only. But during the 15th and 16th century, when the Bhakti movement spread in the North Indian region, it started associating itself with folk dances also. I told you the Bhakti and Sufi movements were all into Sama, or music, and Rag, which mean dance. So Kathak also got influenced by these music and dance. Okay, so along with storytelling, they also started dancing, singing, etc. And that is how the modern day Kathak emerged from its older version. Okay, and this got even more pronounced during the time of Mughal emperors, because Mughal emperors and nobles encouraged and patronized Kathak. So Kathak was often played in Mughal courts and noble houses. Okay, so the distinctive style of Kathak as we see right now emerged in Mughal courts. Very, very important point. Don't forget. Okay. And as far as Kathak is concerned, there are two gharanas. Okay. Gharanas means two traditions or two styles of Kathak. First one is known as the Jaipur Gharana. Jaipur Gharana means it started developing in the Rajasthan region, in the Jaipur region. Other one is known as the Lucknow Gharana. Okay, the name deals with the state where it is born, the region where it is developed. That's all. Okay, two different styles of Kathak. First is the Jaipur Gharana, other one is the Lucknow Gharana. And this was patronized by Wajid Ali Shah, the Nawab of Oudh. Okay, Wajid Ali Shah, the Nawab of Oudh, patronized Kathak. Very important, another point for prelims. Okay, so we can see intricate and rapid footwork, elaborate costumes, and enactment of stories, especially related to Radha and Krishna. Stories of Radha and Krishna are generally used for Kathak dances. Okay, so Kathak, like many other cultural practices, were actually disliked by British. British were against all these kind of Indian art forms. What they wanted were to use Indians for their profit. So never cared about Indian culture and art forms or anything. Okay, so in the 19th and 20th centuries, Kathak witnessed some kind of decline because the English were opposed to all these kinds of activities, all Indian art forms. Okay. And one more point, Kathak is recognized as one of the 6 classical dance forms of the country during independence. Right now we have 8 classical dances. But earlier the initial number was 6 only. Even at that time, Kathak was one of the classical dances of India. So what are the 8 classical dances? Before that, who or which academy lists the classical dances of India? It is the Sangeet Natak Academy. Okay, Sangeet Natak Academy makes this list of classical dances of India. Also, Ministry of Culture also has a list of its own regarding classical dances of India. Okay, so as per Sangeet Natak Academy list, there are currently 8 classical dances of India, and these are the 8. Okay, but as far as Ministry of Culture is concerned, in their list there is one more additional dance along with this 8 one, and totally they have 9 classical dances in their list. Okay, never forget, Sangeet Natak Academy 8, Ministry of Culture 9. So what are the classical dances? Bharatanatyam from Tamil Nadu, Kathakali from Kerala, Odissi, Odisha, Kuchipudi of Andhra Pradesh, Manipuri, Manipur, Kathak, North Indian region, Satriya, Assam, Mohiniyattam, Kerala. These are the 8 classical dances recognized by the Sangeet Natak Academy. Okay, and Ministry of Culture also includes Chahu. There are 3 types of Chahu also that we will look in an art and culture class, not now. But Ministry of Culture recognizes Chahu, which is practiced in Jharkhand, Odisha and West Bengal. Okay, the Eastern Indian region. Okay, so together they have a list of 9 classical dances. Okay, this can also be asked before your prelims. So make sure to study this list. Yes, Seema, correct. Kathak is in not just Uttar Pradesh, in the North Indian region together. Okay, in Rajasthan also, the Jaipur Gharana of Kathak originated in Rajasthan. Okay, so the North Indian region as general, not exclusively for a particular state. Predominantly Uttar Pradesh, but other states also. Now we are going to look at another form. Okay, now so far we looked into dances, which is a performing art. Next is the fine arts, painting. Okay, the miniature painting. So what are these miniatures? Miniatures means what? Small painting. Look at this painting. See, this is a very small painting. Okay, I have enlarged it to make it big, look big, but this is actually very small painting. So miniature paintings were actually extremely popular in early times, and predominantly they were used for illustration in Jaina textbooks. Okay, Jainist religious textbooks contains many literary things, and in order to illustrate whatever is said, these miniature paintings were employed. Just like right now, when we read a book, you will see a figure adjacent to that book content, explaining that content, illustration. Okay, miniature paintings were also used for illustration of Jaina textbooks. Okay, and during the time of Mughals, especially Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan patronized these miniature paintings in their manuscripts. Okay, Akbar, Jahangir and Shah Jahan, the three of the top Mughal rulers, they patronized miniature painting. And these miniature paintings used brilliant colors and portrayed almost everything. Okay, the theme of miniatures were different. It had portraits, it had mythology, court scenes, battle scenes, and various aspects of social life. So everything is covered under miniature paintings. It was not just practiced within the court only. Some social life or the common man's life, etc., can also be pictured in miniature paintings. Okay, another region that was attached to this miniature painting is the Himachal Pradesh region. So just like the Kathak having two branches, the Lucknow Gharana and Jaipur Gharana, we have different schools of painting in miniatures also. One such school is the Basholi school. Okay, so Basholi school of miniatures were popular in Himachal Pradesh. Okay, and the Bhanudatta's Rasamanjari was painted based on Basholi school of miniatures. Okay, Bhanudatta's Rasamanjari was actually painted as per the Basholi school of miniatures. Then, during the Nadir Shah's invasion of Delhi, you remember, Nadir Shah came to Delhi, he massacred a lot of people and he literally destroyed the city of Delhi. At that time, many of the Mughal artists who were in the Mughal court escaped from plains to hilly regions. Okay, escaped to hilly regions. And there, in those hilly regions, they founded another school of miniatures. It is known as the Kangra school of painting. A very famous school of North Indian painting, miniatures, known as Kangra school. Okay, and the Kangra school actually dealt with Vaishnavite paintings and used soft colors including cool colors like blue, green, etc. Okay, there are hot colors and cool colors. Cool colors are this one, blue, green, etc. And the warm colors are yellow, red, orange, etc. Okay, in your television, you can adjust the warmth of the picture. There is warm, there is medium, and there is cool. This is based on the RGB values or the CMYK values. Okay, so here also the Kangra school of painting actually dealt with soft colors. Okay, you can see this here. This is an example of Kangra school. See, yellow and orange is very, very limited in this painting. Predominantly, it is green and blue. Only the clothes are in yellow. Here, some part is orange. That's it. Other than that, there is no red or no other warm colors. Okay, so this is basically about Kangra school of miniature painting. Now we are going to look at some important areas or some important areas where culture developed in medieval India. One area is Bengal. Okay, so from the 4th and 3rd century BCE onwards, commercial ties between various parts started to develop in India. Okay, especially Bengal and Magadha, then Bihar and Odisha. So these kinds of states started to intermingle together even in the BC era. Okay, and this led to the confluence of merger of various cultures. Okay, for example, when Bengal and Magadha came into contact with each other, what happened? It led to the growing influence of Sanskrit in Bengal. Magadha was predominantly Sanskrit, and when Bengal came into contact with Magadha, Bengal was also influenced by Sanskrit. Later, during the Gupta period, what happened? Guptas established political control over Bengal. So Guptas also influenced in the cultural formation of Bengal. After the Gupta period, Bengal came into the reign of Pala rulers. Okay, and then they came into the rule of sultans, the Islamic sultans. So see, the one region of Bengal is actually under the influence of multiple kingdoms at multiple times. So the culture of Bengal is a mixture of all these various cultures and traditions. Okay, so in 1586, Akbar conquered Bengal and he formed the Bengal Suba. Okay, and during this time of Akbar, Persian was the language of administration. That is common. Okay, for throughout the Mughal period, Persian was their official language or the language of administration. But in Bengal, the language of Bengali started developing as a regional language, common man's language. Okay, thus, although Bengali is derived from Sanskrit, it passed through several stages of evolution. Also, a wide range of non-Sanskrit words derived from a variety of sources, including tribal languages, Persian and European languages, have become part of Bengali. I already told you, Bengal was under the influence of lots and lots of kingdoms. Guptas were there. Then came Palas, then Sultans, then later Mughals. So, the language of Bengali is also a mixture of all these things. Okay, so Bengali language has many words from Sanskrit, many words from non-Sanskritic languages, many words from foreign languages. Clear? So, it is a mixture of many cultures. So, early Bengali literature may be divided into two categories. One is indebted to Sanskrit and other is independent of it. Okay, so those category which is indebted to Sanskrit includes translations of Sanskrit epics. For example, Mangala Kavyas. This is also a prelims question. Mangala Kavyas and Nath literature are seen in which part of India? I have seen this question in some of the mock tests. Okay, Mangala Kavyas and Nath literature. This is seen in Bengal. Okay, so as the Bengal culture arose, it split into two kinds of categories. One category indebted to Sanskrit and other of an independent language. So those part that is indebted to Sanskrit has some translations. For example, Mangala Kavyas, which literally means auspicious poems dealing with local deities. Then Bhakti literature such as biographies of Chaitanya Deva, the leader of Vaishnava Bhakti movement. All these are examples of Sanskritic influence. Then the other part that did not have the influence of Sanskrit includes the Nath literature. Okay, for example, the songs of Mainamati and Gopi Chandra, stories concerning worship of Dharma Thakur. Dharma Thakur is a local deity. Okay, and other fairy tales, folk dances, ballads, etc. So there were two branches. One is influenced by Sanskrit and other is independent of it. The example for the first branch is Mangala Kavyas. Example of the second branch is Nath literature. Both are seen in state of Bengal. Okay, clear? So this is the example for influence of architecture. Okay, we will see this particular slide and then go back to this image. Okay, so the pirs and temples. The term included saints and Sufis and other religious personalities, daring colonizers and defied soldiers, various Hindus and Buddhist deities, and even animistic spirits. Okay, so the term pir actually includes all these kinds of things. The essential meaning of this word pir is guru. Okay, the master. But that master can be anyone. He can be a Sufi saint. He can be some other religious personality, some daring colonizer. Okay, can be anyone. It is not exactly defined who he is. The liberal translation is guru. Okay, so many of the modest brick and terracotta temples in Bengal were built with the support of low social groups such as Kolu or the oil pressers and the Kansari or the bell metal workers. So we have seen many kinds of temples that is built in Bengal, and these were actually built with the help of local people. Low class people. Low class means at that time they were called as low class. Okay, not now. During those times, the oil pressers or the Kolus and the Kansari or the bell metal workers were actually functional in building the temples of Bengal. Okay, so when local deities, once worshipped in thatched huts, etc., gained recognition of Brahmanas, they began to be placed in temples. See this image. This is a thatched hut. See the roof. It is thatched with leaves and all. Okay, so initially the local deities of local regional people were placed in these kind of thatched huts. But once it came in contact with Brahmanas and Brahmanism, and later Brahmanism accepted these gods, what happened? These gods were also placed in temples, big grand temples. Okay, and these temples had similar features of traditional Bengali temples. For example, this is a two-part roof. Okay, just like this. There is one part, there is the second part. This is the two-part roof. This one is a four-part roof. Okay, so here you have one, then two, then behind this here it will be three, and here it will be four. So four triangles together joined, that is the four-part roof. This is extremely hard to construct. Okay, so these kinds of roofs are seen in traditional Bengal architecture, and these were actually inculcated in later temples of Bengal region. Okay, so here as you can see, once the influence of Brahmanas started coming in, the local deities were actually placed in temples, and these temples began to copy the double roof style or the dochala. Okay, this is the dochala or the double roof, and the other one, the four roofed or chauchala architecture. Okay, so the modern temples were also constructed based on the traditional styles of construction, the Dauchala and Chauchala. Okay, so this led to the evolution of typical Bengali style of architecture. Clear? Now, temples were usually built on a square platform. Interior is relatively plain, but the outer walls of these temples are intricate carvings. Okay, so the inside of the temple is relatively plain, but the outside has lots and lots of beautiful designs. For example, you can see this image now. This is an image from the Vishnupur temple in Bengal, in the Bankura district of West Bengal. Okay, the Vishnupur temple in the Bankura district of West Bengal has intricate carvings in the external walls. You can see this figure even in your NCERT textbook. Okay, so this is the feature of Bengal temples. The inside is very plain, but our exterior wall is intricately designed. Also, these temples are built on a square platform or on top of a square platform. Okay, so this is about the pirs and temples in medieval times. Another important cultural phenomenon that happened is regarding the food. We saw about language, we saw about dance, we saw about painting, we saw about temple construction. Now we are going to see about food. Food is another area where some cultural differences happen at this time. Okay, so the traditional food habits actually changed at Bengal around the medieval period. Okay, so the food habit of a region is basically based on what is available to them. Whatever is available determines the food habit of that region. Okay, so the most important products available in Bengal were rice and fish. Okay, rice and fish. Brahmanas, if you remember, initially were not allowed to eat meat or say non-vegetarian food at all. Okay, Brahmanas were actually not allowed to eat non-vegetarian food. But since fish was one of the most common commodities in Bengal, an exception was given to Bengali Brahmanas. Okay, so the Brahmanical authorities relaxed their prohibition for Bengal Brahmanas, and they allowed these Bengal Brahmanas to eat some specific kinds of fish. Certain specific varieties of fish were allowed for Brahmanas in Bengal. So see, even the religion is getting influenced by local availabilities. So the culture of a very dominant religion has actually changed in Bengal. Okay, so food habits in different parts of the country also has influenced the culture and tradition of that part of the country. So this is how various regions developed in medieval India, and we see a lot of regionalism. We have many common features throughout India. Okay, Kerala has something in common with Bengal and Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, but Kerala has also its own individuality. Okay, that is why India is called a unity in diversity. We have unity as well as diversity. So this chapter basically explains this point, unity in diversity. We saw different kind of architecture, food, clothing, painting, music, dance. Okay, different regions have different styles, but even then something is common for all of them. Clear? So that brings us to the end of that chapter. Now we are moving to the final chapter, chapter 10. That is a comparatively shorter chapter, and we will wind up by 6 o'clock itself. Okay, 2-hour class only, and we will be ending it today. So the last chapter of Standard 7 textbook, our past 2. Okay, 18th century political formations. Okay, so after this we are going into the modern India chapters next week. We will start with chapter 8 NCERT textbook, modern India. So before we start modern India, we will have to understand what are the political formations in the medieval times. Only then we can, gradually move to modern India. Okay, so this chapter is more like a transition between medieval and modern times. So while you study this chapter, you have to study this chapter with map. You need to know which country or which kind of kingdom rules over what area. Okay, for example, Sikhs. The Sikhs rule over the northwestern Indian region. Rajputs, Rajasthan region. Oudh, Uttar Pradesh region. Then Marathas, Maharashtra and adjacent region. The kingdom of Hyderabad. Okay, Hyderabad right now is a place, okay, a small city. But the kingdom of Hyderabad had a huge territory at that time. Okay, so all this you have to understand. Now let's look at the points. So the crisis of the empire and the later Mughals. So crisis of the empire means crisis of the Mughal empire. Okay, so I have taken a session known as disintegration of Mughals. Okay, disintegration of Mughals. I have taken this lesson in Unacademy app about a month ago. You can go back and watch it. It is free. Everyone can watch it without any subscription or anything. So please do watch it because it is very important. Why did the Mughals disintegrate and what are the reasons and why cannot they stop it, etc. are well explained in that chapter. Here you can see a basic overview of that lesson. Okay, so the reason why Mughals disintegrated and the later Mughals failed to arrest that disintegration. Starting with Emperor Aurangzeb. During the time of Aurangzeb, the Mughal dynasty did not disintegrate. Okay, because Aurangzeb was actually really strong, powerful king. And whenever the monarch of a particular dynasty is very strong, that dynasty will not disintegrate unless it loses a war. Okay, unless it loses a war, if the monarch is powerful enough, then that dynasty is not going to disintegrate. But if it is ruled by a weak ruler, that monarchy will immediately collapse. And that is what happened in Mughals also. So Aurangzeb made many blunders. Okay, but even with all those blunders, the Mughal dynasty was still very powerful during the time of Aurangzeb's death. But after the death of Aurangzeb, weak and incompetent rulers came up into the Mughal throne and this destroyed the Mughal dynasty. Okay, so let's look at the reasons one by one. The first reason is the policy of Aurangzeb. Okay, if you remember, I have talked about Aurangzeb's Deccan campaign in the previous class, where he abandoned Delhi and he came to Deccan for about 25 years. Aurangzeb ruled for 49 years, okay, and of these 49 years, 25 years he spent in Deccan, abandoning the throne in Delhi. And he used lots and lots of finances and money in his campaign against Deccan kingdoms, especially Marathas. Okay, so the Maratha policy or the Deccan policy of Aurangzeb was a blunder. That is the first point. Explanation is given in this lecture. You can go back and watch it. Then we will see more regarding this in the future textbooks, but in the Standard 7 textbooks, we have to stick with whatever is here. Okay. Then under his successors, the efficiency of the imperial administration broke down. I told you there are only 6 great Mughals: Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan and Aurangzeb. After that onward, the next king onwards, the Mughal emperors were not competent enough to handle such a dynasty. the weak successors of Aurangzeb. Then it became increasingly difficult for later Mughal emperors to keep their powerful Mansabdars. The Mansabdari system, okay, or granting the land assignments for various officers. This actually proved to be fatal for Mughal dynasty. The number of Mansabdars increased and there were not enough land to allocate them. Also, the revenue from these lands to the Mughal kingdom or the Mughal treasury declined because these were allotted to various different officers. So the Mansabdari system was also proving to be a fatal blow to Mughal dynasty. Nobles appointed as governors often controlled their offices and military administration. Okay, nobles were supposed to be governors, which means they had to report back to the emperor and do what the emperor says. But instead, what did they do? They took over other functions also, like Diwani, Faujdari. Diwani means collecting revenues, the revenue functions. Okay, so Subedar function, the revenue function is there, policing function, judicial function, everything were taken over by these governors. Okay, Subedar, who does the law and order functions, Diwani, revenue, Faujdari, financial functions. Okay, all these were taken over by governors. Peasant and Zamindari rebellions in many parts of India. Okay, due to the various kinds of settlement policies. For example, the Zapti system is there, permanent settlement, different kinds, right-by settlement. So different kind of settlement policies were there throughout the Mughal Empire. Okay, these kinds of variations in revenue assessment, etc., caused various kinds of resentments throughout the empire. And there were multiple rebellions from peasants and zamindars against the Mughal kingdom. If you remember, there was a Jat uprising and there was this Santal uprising. All these right under the nose of Aurangzeb. Yesterday I told you. Okay, the Jat rebellion in Delhi. So all these rebellions weakened the prestige of Mughal dynasty. Then people like Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali invaded India. Nadir Shah literally plundered through the Mughal kingdom. Delhi was looted during the time of, who was the king during Nadir Shah's reign? Nadir Shah's raid? It was Rangila. Okay, Muhammad Shah Rangila. He was the Mughal emperor at that time, and he had no choice. He completely got thwarted by Nadir Shah. Okay, so that affected Mughal prestige and glory. Then Ahmad Shah Abdali. If you have seen the film Panipat, okay, which features the third battle of Panipat, the Marathas versus Ahmad Shah Abdali. So Ahmad Shah Abdali also invaded India, and his invasions also caused decline of Mughal dynasty. Competition amongst different group of nobles. So there were the Iranis and there were the Turanis. Turanis means Turkish nobles. Okay, so these different factions of nobles within the Mughal empire itself started creating trouble each other for want of power. Okay, so this kind of internal conflicts also ruined the Mughal kingdom. Then two Mughal emperors, Farrukhsiyar and Alamgir II, were assassinated. Okay, just imagine that. Assassination means what? The emperor is the topmost authority in that kingdom, just like we have our prime minister right now. Okay, and at those times, these two Mughal emperors were assassinated. Okay, you have to understand the gravity of what that means. Then two others, Ahmad Shah and Shah Alam II, were blinded by their nobles. Okay, Shah Alam II and Ahmad Shah were blinded by their own nobles. So this means what? The Mughal dynasty is done. It has completely gone beyond any kind of saving. Okay, so all these reasons together contributed to the decline of Mughal kingdom, decline and disintegration of Mughals. Okay, now this decline of the central powerful dynasty caused the emergence of some new states. So whenever a powerful dynasty disintegrates, that vacuum, that administrative vacuum is taken up by some other states. So when the Mughal dynasty, which once ruled all over the Indian subcontinent, disintegrated, new kingdoms started coming up here and there. And first one, we will look into all of them. Broadly, these states can be classified into three categories. Okay, first one, the states that were old Mughal provinces like Oudh, Bengal and Hyderabad. Okay, those states that were old Mughal provinces. And these states, although they were extremely powerful and independent, the rulers of these states did not break their ties with the Mughal kingdom. Okay, even though these states were almost completely independent, they still accepted the Mughal suzerainty and stayed as Samantas to the Mughal kingdom only. Okay, this is the first group, like Hyderabad, Bengal and Oudh. The second group has enjoyed considerable independence under the Mughals as Vatan Jagirs. For example, Rajputs. Okay, so Mughals, Rajputs were one of the closest allies of Mughals, and Mughals granted them Vatan Jagirs, which means land grants of their own. Okay, these Vatan Jagirs were granted to Rajputs, and these kind of kingdoms that emerged came to be classified in the second category. In the third category, we can see those states controlled by Marathas, Sikhs and others like Jats. And this third category of states completely gained independence by overthrowing the Mughal power. Okay, Marathas were able to completely remove Mughal power from them. So did the Sikhs and so did the Jats. Okay, so this formed the third category of states. Clear? So the first category where the Mughal, it is more or less independent, but the Mughal suzerainty was still accepted. Second category included those states where the Vatan Jagirs were given by Mughals. And the third category includes those states which completely gained independence from the Mughal control. Okay. So the old Mughal provinces includes Oudh, Bengal and Bihar. So Oudh was ruled by Saadat Khan, Bengal by Murshid Quli Khan, Hyderabad by Asaf Jah. Okay, we will look into it in depth in the coming slides. So I am going to explain it fast here. Okay. So all the three had occupied high Mansabdari positions and enjoyed the trust and confidence of emperors. All these people, Saadat Khan, Murshid Quli Khan and Asaf Jah. Okay, for example, Asaf Jah and Murshid Quli Khan had a Zat rank of 7,000. You remember this Zat rank, na? Zat rank is related with Mansabdari system, if you remember, Zat and Zawar. So Zat rank, one of the highest Zat ranks were 7,000. Okay, and both these people, Asaf Jah and Murshid Quli Khan had a rank of 7,000. And Saadat Khan had a Zat rank of 6,000, just below that. Okay, so these kind of people actually became autonomous very soon because they were automatically powerful already. So they were, it was easy for them to establish that kind of independence. So we are going to look at the state of Hyderabad. Okay, so Hyderabad was founded by Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. Very important. Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. Okay, and this was one of the most powerful members of the Mughal court under Farrukhsiyar. Okay, Nizamul Mulk was actually one of the most powerful members of Farrukhsiyar's court. Okay, but later, initially, he was entrusted with the governorship of Oudh. Okay, Asaf Jah was actually the governor of Oudh at the beginning. But later he was also given the charge of Deccan. Okay, and when he was given the charge of Deccan, he went to Deccan and he understood that the Deccan, the area of Deccan is actually having many issues with the Mughal kingdom. Which means what? It is easy for him to attain independence there. Okay, the people already wanted to get away from the Mughal dynasty in the region of Deccan. So this made it easy for Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah to establish a state of his own. Okay, so although he was still a servant of Mughal Empire, he ruled quite independently without seeking any direction from Delhi. I told you, these leaders from Hyderabad, Oudh and Bengal, they did not, deny the Mughal authority. They ruled independently, but at the same time, they accepted the suzerainty of Mughals. But it was only on, just provisional value. Okay, just like the President of India for us. The President of India is not the real head, he is the nominal head. Similarly, at that time, Mughals were simply considered as a nominal head. The real power had stayed with Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. Okay, so Hyderabad was constantly engaged in struggle against Marathas to the west and with independent Telugu warriors in the plateau, like the Nayaks and all. Okay, so Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah was able to control the rich textile producing areas of Coromandel coast in the east as well. Okay, so in the Deccan region, things were not that smooth. Mughals were not considered as a prime authority, so there were already many commotions going on there, and regardless of that, Marathas were constantly keeping on fighting with them. Okay, and along with Marathas, others also like Nayaks started fighting with them. So Deccan was always a commotion area. Okay, so Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah wanted to increase his territory of Hyderabad, and for that purpose he tried to annex the Coromandel coast. Okay, Coromandel coast in the east, which was a rich textile producing region. He tried to annex this, but although he managed to get some area under his control, later he was stopped by British. English East India Company was established by this time, and English managed to finally stop Nizamul Mulk Asaf Jah. Okay, this is Hyderabad. Then the next one is Oudh. Oudh, I already told you, it has been founded by Burhanul Mulk Saadat Khan. Okay, just remain, you have to by heart the name of the ruler. You have no choice there. Okay, Burhanul Mulk Saadat Khan is the founder of Oudh. Okay, and this Oudh was actually a rich alluvial Ganga plain and was one of the most important trade routes in India and between India and Bengal, North India and Bengal. Okay, and this ruler, Nizamul Mulk Burhanul Mulk Saadat Khan, he actually had multiple offices under his control: Subedari, Diwani, and Faujdari. So he controlled the law and order, he controlled the revenue, and he controlled the finances. Okay, so he was more or less independent himself. Okay, so he tried to decrease the Mughal influence in Oudh region by reducing the number of Jagirdars appointed by Mughals. He also reduced the size of Jagirdars. Okay, so instead of talking to the emperor, he started doing things on his own. He started withdrawing the officers who were actually appointed by the Mughal emperor. Okay, this means what? He is trying to achieve his own independence. Okay, then he seized a number of Rajput zamindaris and agriculturally fertile lands of Afghans from Rohilkhand. Okay, without conferring with the Mughal emperor, he has done this all on his own. The state depended on local bankers and Mahajans for loans. Okay, so this is another thing that developed in the Bengal region. The state, instead of depending on major bankers and all, they actually started to depend on local money lenders and bankers known as Mahajans. Okay, and the system of revenue farmers or Ijadari system was started around this time. Okay, so what is Ijardar or the Ijardari system? Okay, Ijardari system is also known as revenue farming. Revenue farming means what? Revenue farming means nothing. The king or the emperor will ask the zamindar, okay, emperor or the king, whoever it is, he will ask the zamindar or the middleman, okay, to pay a fixed amount of tax to him. Okay, for example, suppose he has to pay 100 gold coins. Okay, so this is a fixed sum, but the middleman can collect it in any manner he wants. So from the peasants, okay, he can collect any amount he wants. Okay, he can collect 1 gold coin each, 2 gold coin each, doesn't matter. He can actually collect 500 gold coins or say 1000 gold coins, but he has to pay only 100 gold coins to the emperor. So as long as the emperor got his share, the emperor was not concerned about the middleman. So the middleman used this kind of freedom to oppress the peasants. Okay, and emperor is not anymore concerned about the peasants because he got the revenue anyway. Okay, so the system of revenue farming or giving the collection to the highest bidder, okay, giving the collection opportunity to the highest bidder was started in the area of Oudh. Not just Oudh, we can see that also in Hyderabad as well as Bengal. Okay, so that is about Oudh. Now we are coming to Bengal. Bengal is under whom? Murshid Quli Khan. Murshid Quli Khan was the person who founded the kingdom of Bengal. Okay, and he transferred all Mughal Jagirdars in Bengal to Odisha. And he ordered a major reassessment of revenues in Bengal. Okay, again, in the Oudh region, what happened? The Jagirdaris were reduced. The extent of the land was reduced. Similarly, in Bengal, what did he do? He asked the Mughal Jagirdars to get transferred to Odisha, so that the entire land within Bengal is in direct control of the Murshid Quli Khan only. Okay, so that was the idea. The Jagirdaris were transferred to a different land. So all these land assignments will come back to the kingdom. Okay, so he transferred all Mughal Jagirdars to Odisha. Those unable to pay were forced to sell their land to larger zamindars. Okay, so by selling their land, I mean, if they cannot pay the necessary tax or the revenue, they have to sell their land. They had no other choice. By this method also, the Murshid Quli Khan managed to bring back all the land from Jagirdars. Okay, different small land assignments given to various people began to become united and began to come back to the kingdom. Okay, so the formation of a regional state in 18th century Bengal therefore led to considerable change amongst the zamindars. So smaller zamindars were eliminated and larger zamindars started to gain ground. Those who cannot pay up were forced to give up their land to larger zamindars. So some of the zamindars got immensely rich and some of them got out of the play around this time. Okay, and the close connection between the state and the bankers, noticeable in Hyderabad and Oudh as well, was evident in Bengal during the rule of Alivardi Khan. During his reign, the banking house of Jagat Seth became extremely prosperous. Very important name, Jagat Seth. Jagat Seth was one of the prominent bankers in medieval times. Okay, so these states, these newly emerged states, always maintained a close connection with these bankers. Why? Because in order to pay the revenue to the state, the people who cannot pay, they will approach the bankers and lend money, to borrow money. Okay, and after some point of time, they will be unable to pay this back. Okay, I mean the interest will also start accruing up and they will be unable to pay this back. At that time, what will happen? These bankers can confiscate the land. Clear? So the emperors or the rulers in this region were closely associated with these bankers and they together made sure that all this land came back to the kingdom. Okay, this was not just in Bengal, this happened in Oudh and Hyderabad as well. Okay, so what are the common features in these three kingdoms? First one is that they were highly suspicious of some of the administrative systems they had inherited, particularly the Jagirdari system. All these three states were against Jagirdari system. They all tried to get back all the land because they did not feel right about the Jagirdari system enforced by the Mughals. Second common feature is that their method of tax collection. Okay, I told you the Ijaradari system. I explained this, so I am not going to repeat it again. Okay, so Ijaradari system was prevalent in all these three kingdoms. And the third common feature is the emerging relationship between rich bankers and merchants. I already told you why. People will go there to borrow money, they will fail to pay it back and their land gets confiscated. So the emperors maintained very good relationship with rich bankers as well as merchants. So these three are the common features for all the kingdoms that emerged in the medieval period. Clear? Okay, now we are going to see about Rajputs. The first section of the states is over. Now we have the Rajputs and we go to the last session. Okay, so the Vatan Jagirs or the Rajputs. So Rajputs kings, most of them were actually loyal to the Mughals from the beginning. And due to this fact, these Mughal emperors gave them Vatan Jagirs. Vatan Jagirs means their own self land. Okay, just like the Jagirdari system, these Mughal emperors actually granted a lot of own land to the Rajputs because Rajputs were most often friendly with the Mughals. Unlike Marathas, they were actually friendly. Okay, so the influential Rajput families claimed the Subedari of the rich provinces of Gujarat and Malwa. Okay, these are examples. Raja Ajit Singh of Jodhpur held the governorship of Gujarat. Raja Jai Singh of Amber was the governor of Malwa. The offices of these offices were actually renewed during the time of Jahandar Shah. Okay, so these Rajput rulers used their closeness with the Mughal dynasty to gain good offices and to gain powerful provinces. Okay, that the examples are given in this statement: Raja Jai Singh and Raja Ajit Singh. Okay, then Nagaur was conquered and annexed to the house of Jodhpur, while Amber seized the larger portions of Bundi. So the weak Mughal dynasty led the Rajputs to expand themselves. Okay, so when the Mughal dynasty became weak, Rajputs started expanding. So Nagaur was conquered and annexed to Jodhpur. Amber seized large portions of Bundi. So new territories were acquired by the Rajputs around this time. Okay, then Savai Raja Jai Singh founded the city of Jaipur. Okay, and was also given the Subedari of Agra. Agra was one of the richest areas at that time, and he actually managed to get the Subedari of Agra from the Mughal emperor. See how Rajputs are expanding at this time. Then Maratha campaigns into Rajasthan from the 1740s put severe pressure on the principalities and checked their further expansion. When the Mughals actually became weak, Marathas started expanding. Marathas became extremely powerful. Okay, by the time of Third Battle of Panipat, Marathas were the only power in India who could actually stop Ahmad Shah Abdali and who could have actually ruled the whole of India. Okay, after the Mughals, the only powerful dynasty which could actually have ruled India were the Marathas, but they couldn't do that because they failed the Third Battle of Panipat because of their own blunders. We will look into what happened later, but just understand that Marathas were the people who actually checked the Rajput expansion at this time. Okay, so many Rajput rulers had accepted the suzerainty of Mughals, but Mewar was the only Rajput state that defied the Mughals, and Mewar was ruled by a very famous king known as Rana Pratap. You remember the story of Rana Pratap, na? Rana Pratap was one person who did not bow down to the Mughals. He constantly kept on battling the Mughals. Eventually, he died. He couldn't succeed in his attempt, but he fought valiantly till his death. Okay, so apart from Mewar, the rest of Rajputs accepted the suzerainty of Mughals. Savai Jai Singh, the ruler of Amber, constructed 5 astronomical observatories known as Jantar Mantar. Remember, you have this Jantar Mantar in 5 different areas in India: Delhi, Jaipur, Ujjain, Mathura and Varanasi. Okay, also remember, in the UNESCO World Heritage List, we have a Jantar Mantar, and that Jantar Mantar is not the one in Delhi, it is the one in Jaipur. Okay, in the UNESCO Heritage List, the Jantar Mantar that is in there is the Jantar Mantar in Jaipur, not Delhi. Often people are confused regarding that. Make sure you understand it. Alright, so this is about the Rajputs. Then another important clan is the Sikhs. We will end this session very soon, okay? Within 10 to 15 minutes we will wind up. I am trying to complete it because this is the last chapter. I don't want to extend it to Monday. Okay, so just 3 more slides and we are done. Okay, so about the Sikhs, I already explained about the Sikhs to you. How Guru Nanak, started the Sikh religion. Then Guru Angad compiling the textbook. Then starting the Gurumukhi script. Then Guru Arjan compiling the Adi Granth. Then Guru Gobind Singh compiling the Guru Granth Sahib and starting the Khalsa. All this we already said. But after the time of Guru Gobind Singh, okay, the control of the Sikhs were taken by Banda Bahadur. The Khalsa was led by a person known as Banda Bahadur. Okay, and they declared their sovereign rule by striking coins on the name of Guru Nanak and Guru Gobind Singh. Okay, Sikhs were against the Mughals. So Banda Bahadur led the Khalsa and they declared their independence by striking coins on their own, okay, under the name of Guru Nanak and Guru Gobind Singh. Alright, and the Sikhs organized themselves into lots of bands called Jathas and later called mills. There are multiple, small classes within the Sikhs, and these are known as mills. M-I-S-L-S, the S is silent. Okay, and earlier these mills were known as Jathas. Alright, their combined forces were together known as Dal Khalsa. So all these mills together came up for battle, and these the combined army of these different sub mills were known as Dal Khalsa. Okay, and they together took all the decisions by meeting in Amritsar during Baishakhi and Diwali, and these decisions were known as resolutions of Guru or the Gurmatas. So what are Gurmatas? Gurmatas are the resolutions of Guru or the decisions taken by different mills together during the Baishakhi and Diwali festivals. Okay, they also introduced the system of Rakhi, offering protection to cultivators in exchange for 20% of their production. The Sikhs promised that they will protect the cultivator provided they give 20% of their production to the Sikhs as tax. Okay, so you can see here also the Sikhs are taking control over the Mughal power completely. Okay, and they formed a well-knit organization, and this enabled them to successfully resist Mughal governors and Ahmad Shah Abdali. If you remember, this both the Mughals and Ahmad Shah Abdali couldn't actually conquer the Sikhs because they were actually a very well organized, very well structured clan, the Sikhs. Okay, we will talk about Maharaja Ranjit Singh also later. Maharaja Ranjit Singh reunited these groups and established his capital in Lahore in 1799. We have to see Maharaja Ranjit Singh in detail in modern India. Okay, so this is how Sikhs came into the prominence. They actually started as a one of the Bhakti movements, is a part of Bhakti movement. Then they became a religious group. Then they became a militant class, and eventually they became a political entity as their own. And they actually created the Sikh kingdom. Okay, that is how the Sikhs developed over time from Guru Nanak to Maharaja Ranjit Singh. Okay, that is about Sikhs. Then about Marathas. This I have already explained it to you while I explained the disintegration of Mughals, but I will go through it quickly. So Marathas actually became powerful under the Peshwas. Peshwa Bajirao, Peshwa Balaji Vishwanath. This Peshwa system was prevalent in Maratha kingdom. Okay, and these Peshwas were extremely good. And under the Peshwas, Maharashtra or the Maratha kingdom developed into a very powerful empire. Okay, so by 1730s, Maratha king was recognized as the overlord of the entire Deccan Peninsula. And in this area, he actually started two taxes. One is Chaut and other is Sardeshmukhi. Okay, so what is Chaut and what is Sardeshmukhi? Chaut is a tax. Okay, 25% of the land revenue claimed by Zamindars. This was collected from the Deccan region. Okay, so 1/4 of the produce is collected as Chaut. Okay, and then we have Sardeshmukhi. Sardeshmukhi is 10% of the land revenue paid to the head revenue collector. Okay, so over and above Chaut, this 25%, another 10% is levied as Sardeshmukhi, and these two taxes were collected by the Marathas from the regions that they claimed to be theirs. Okay, not from within their country, but from the regions or territories outside the Maratha territory that Marathas claimed to be theirs. Okay, so that is Chaut and Sardeshmukhi. Chau means 4. So Chaut is 1/4, 25%. Sardeshmukhi is the other one, 10%. Okay, now these military campaigns, okay, I mean once they started collecting all these taxes and doing lots of military campaigns and expanding, what happened? Naturally, lots and lots of people became their enemies. Okay, and this is one of the reasons why Marathas could not win the Third Battle of Panipat, because most of the kingdoms did not help them. because they were already, they already conquered those kingdoms and they were forcing them to pay tax. So when the time came, they said, we won't help you. And Marathas had to battle the Ahmad Shah Abdali with very, very less force compared to what they should have had. And they lost the battle. Okay? Now, agriculture was encouraged and trade was revived. This allowed the Maratha chiefs like Shindya of Golkar, Gaikwad of Baroda, Bhonsle of Nagpur, and the resources to raise powerful armies. Okay, so in this point, what you have to study for prelims is different groups of Marathas and their region of influence. Scindias, Gwalior, Gaikwad, Baroda, Bhonsle, Nagpur. Some more is there. Peshwa, Pune. Okay, then we have SG here. Scindia, Gwalior, SG, Gaikwad, Baroda, GB, Bhonsle, Nagpur, that is BN, Peshwa, Pune, that is PP, and we have HI, that is Holkar for Indore. Okay, these were the 5 factions of Marathas. You have to study the name of that faction and the associated territory for your prelims. Clear? Now, among these Peshwas, the most important Peshwa was Baji Rao I. I told you Peshwas took the Marathas to power, na? And the most important Peshwa was Baji Rao I. And he was actually the son of Balaji Vishwanath, the first Peshwa. Okay, Balaji Vishwanath and Baji Rao I were the greatest Peshwas of Maratha Empire. And they are actually credited to have expanded Marathas till the Vindhya, beyond the Vindhyas. Okay, I told you the Peshwas were the supreme office of Marathas, and Balaji Vishwanath and Baji Rao I are the persons who are credited with making the Maratha Empire so powerful and glorious. Before the Peshwa system came into being, what was the system there? It was usual kingship only, and the most important king of Marathas is Shivaji, Chhatrapati Shivaji. Okay, Shivaji, who was born to Shahji and Jijabai in 1630, and under the guidance of his mother and his uncle or guardian, Dada Kondadev. That is also important. Okay, Shivaji's guardian, the name is Dada Kondadev. Okay, and Shivaji started expanding the Marathas. Shivaji was the person who actually, made the Marathas a strong power initially. After Shivaji, it was taken over by the Peshwas. Okay, if you remember, yesterday I told you Shivaji was defeated and taken to the court by Aurangzeb, but Shivaji managed to, and he was humiliated in the court of Mughals. Shivaji escaped from there, and from then onwards, Aurangzeb had to face Shivaji constantly. And in order to do that, Aurangzeb came from Delhi all the way to Deccan, and that is why his Deccan conquest is considered as a blunder that could easily have been avoided. But he chose to mess with Shivaji, and he had to pay his price. Okay, so this is basically about Marathas. And the last one, the Jats. Okay, the Jat kingdom is essentially a prosperous agricultural kingdom. It was predominantly agriculturalists. And the kingdom was actually founded under Churaman. The Jats organized under Churaman. Okay, and they acquired control over territories situated to the west of the city of Delhi. The first Jat leader was Churaman. Okay, later, under another leader called Surajmal, they established the kingdom of Bharatpur. Okay, he was another Jat leader, and under him, Jats successfully established their kingdom, and this kingdom is known as Bharatpur. This is the Jat kingdom. Okay, and at a place called Dig. Okay, the Jats built an elaborate garden palace combining the styles seen in Amber and Agra. Its buildings were modeled on architectural forms associated with royalty under Shah Jahan. Okay, at a place called Dig, Jats built an elaborate palace, and you can see the image here. If you look at this closely, you can see that Bengal style of architecture also. See this one, this dome here. It is actually the Dochala roof, two-part roof that we saw in Bengal architecture. Okay, that is exactly seen here. If you look closely, you can watch it. Okay, so such kind of buildings were built by the Jat kingdom of Bharatpur. The power of Jats reached its zenith under Surajmal, who consolidated the Jat state of Bharatpur in the current state of Rajasthan during the 18th century. Surajmal built a number of forts, palaces, and famous Lohar fort in Bharatpur. So the Lohagarh fort in Bharatpur was built by Surajmal, and it is a part of Jat kingdom. Don't forget. When you hear about this Lohagarh fort, it is actually situated in Rajasthan. So you might think it is a Rajput fort. It is not a Rajput fort. It is a Bharatpur fort or the Jat fort. Okay, so this is a basic overview of the Jats. We will look into Jat rebellion and all detailed in the next textbook. I mean in the future classes. But for now we can wind up here. Okay, so in this chapter we looked into the disintegration of Mughals and springing up of local kingdoms here and there. We studied about the three kinds of kingdoms that sprang up, and finally, I mean, we went through the Oudh, Bengal, and Hyderabad. Then we saw these Marathas, Jats, etc., etc. Okay, now this is the pretext of the India moving from medieval times to modern times. Okay, now in the next class on Monday, when I start this 8th standard textbook, you will see about the British East India Company also coming into play. These foreign powers will also come to play along with these natural Indian powers. Okay, and together we will start the modern Indian history. Clear? So medieval India, we have successfully completed the entire textbook by this class. So that is it for today. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining. You can actually use my code MSRW1 to get 10% discount in an Unacademy subscription. So please also subscribe to my Telegram channel t.me/MSRW1 in order to get all the PDFs and other content. Okay, so there is a world history class coming up at 8 p.m. in Unacademy app. Please do join me there also. The topic is American Civil War. Okay, so that is it. Thank you for joining. See you again on Monday. Bye bye.